Hello, my name is Tia,
And I'm Tasbeat.
and today we'll go over variables and sounds. So today you should know how to use sensing blocks and how to use event blocks, and we will learn about how to use variables and about sound. The link to go over yesterday's daily activity is on the screen, so if you want to pause the video and go check your daily activity, you may do that right now. All right, moving on to variables. Does anybody know what a variable is? Variables are one of the most useful ideas in coding. They let you store your own values and change them however you like. Variables are kind of like boxes, and you can put a label on this box, such as cookies. This is called the variable's name. The box can store a value, such as 42. Our variable cookies has the value 42. Variables can store any kind of value, including words or numbers. When we use our variable's cookies, it gives us the number 42. Cookies is equal to 42 in this way. You can also change variables. So if somebody ate a cookie and you wanted to change the variable to show that, you could just set cookies to cookies minus 1. Did you know that you've already been using variables? Scratch actually has many built-in variables to store certain values. These blocks shown on the screen are just a few of the variables that Scratch has. They store values, which makes them variables. You can also change and set the variables to different values by using these other blocks on the right. Variables you make yourself work exactly like these variables, except with the ones you make yourself, you may store whatever value you like instead of being stuck with the ones that Scratch has for you defaulted. Let's go back a slide and go over how to make a variable.
Okay, so to make a variable, let's just set up some code first. So obviously we need the when flag is clicked, and then let's add a couple more things. So to make a variable, we click make a variable, and then we can set our variable name to whatever we want. So let's use the example cookies. And you can change different settings for all sprites or for this sprite only. Let's keep it for all sprites right now. So we can set the variable cookies to any value we want. So in the example, it was 42, so let's keep it 42 as well. And then let's say when the cat says yum for 2 seconds, we change the number of cookies down by 1. So what we can do is go back to variables, and then we can change cookies by -1. And the reason it's negative because as the cat eats a cookie, the number of cookies should go down. And then we can put this in a forever loop to have this happen over and over again. Let's see what happens. And also you can see the variable change over here. So when we click the green flag, we can see it says 42. And then every 2 seconds, it says yum and the number goes down by 1. This is a way we can use variables.
So why don't you go to Scratch and try this out on your own?
You can pause the video here and try it out.
So now let's go over how to set a variable. As we went over briefly earlier, setting a variable just gives the variable a value. It's like putting something in the box, if we're going back to that analogy. If you set this variable, it will replace whatever used to be in the variable and set it to anything you choose. So let's demonstrate how to use this block some more.
So as we looked in this brief example, we're changing cookies by -1. And that is a way we can change our values. but we can add something else. So let's say every time the cat says ding, which means that the oven is ready, we'll add 5 more cookies. So now we know, so this will constantly update the same variable cookies. Let's click the green flag and see what happens. So we start with 42, he says yum, and it goes down by 1, but every time he says ding, it goes up by 5.
Alright, now let's talk about changing a variable. Changing the variable just changes whatever's currently in the variable by a certain amount. Some examples of when you'd like to use this would be to change the number of points a player has, or count the number of times something happens. But if your block has a word in it, for example, if my variable was set to hello, if you try to change it by 1, it will set the value of my variable to 1. So be careful. These blocks have the same function as the check mark next to the oval that contains the variable. They simply allow you to show or hide the variable on the scratch screen. Unchecking or hiding the variable just stops showing the value to the user. It doesn't change how the variable works at all. It'll continue to work and update and change even if it's not showing. Let's go to Scratch and demonstrate this a bit.
So if we go back to variables, we can hide the variable cookies, and then we don't really know how the variable is changing. The cat will still alternate by saying yum and ding, but we don't know what the value of cookies is. So depending on the application of how you use each variable, you might want to show it on the screen. So let's click this checkbox again to make sure our code is working as we intended. And there we can see the numbers are going down by 1 and up by 5.
You may pause the video and go try showing and hiding your variable on Scratch. Alright, so now let's go over a quick mini lesson about sounds and how you can add them to your Scratch project. So if you go to the Scratch screen, you should see a little tab that's called Sounds next to your code and your costume, right there. If you click on it, in the bottom left, you'll see a little blue circle that allows you to add sounds into your project. There are 4 ways that you can choose a sound. You can either upload it from your own computer, have Scratch pick a random sound for you, record your own sound, or choose a sound from Scratch's library. So let's add some sounds into our project right now.
So since we were talking about cookies, let's find a sound that'll fit this theme. But you can see here all the different sounds that they have available for you, and you can preview some. So let's find, here, let's use this bite sound.
Alright, so now you may pause the video and add some sounds into your own project. Alright, so whenever you want to play a sound, there are 2 options. The first one is to play the sound until it's done. This will play the sound and wait until the sound is finished before moving on to any more code. This will stop the sound from overlapping with other sounds, and it's good for sound effects. The other sound option is to start the sound. This will start the sound and then move on to the rest of the code, even if the sound is still playing. This means that you can have overlapping sounds. The start sound block is good for background music, since you want the music to be happening while everything else in your code is also happening at the same time. Let's go to Scratch and add some sounds into our program.
Okay, so let's play sound bite until done after our cat says yum.
So we should switch the screen so we can see it.
So I just added this sound until it's done. So let's really see how this until done works if we add another sound. So you might notice a little drop down here, and you can see all the other sounds that are in your library. So let's add them now. So when we play this, you will hear the completely, and then the meow sound completely, and then I'll move on to the rest of its code. But if we want to add a background noise, we can have that above the forever loop, and it can go on until it's done. So let's really quickly add a sound. Let's go into a longer sound. This is good. We'll start sound chill. So the sound chill will be happening at the same time as bite and meow are happening because we're not waiting for the sound to complete. So you could hear both noises play on top of each other.
All right. The next block we're going to talk about is the stop all sounds block. So the stop all sounds block does exactly what it says it will do, and it stops all existing sounds in your program. Note that this does not mean that it will stop your program from playing sounds in the future. It just stops any sounds that are happening at the moment.
So let's share the scratch screen and make a parallel code real quick. So we'll do when flag is clicked, start sound chill, wait, let's say 2 seconds. Also, I'll get rid of the sound chill right here. Oops. Let's add the forever loop back. Okay. And then we want to stop all sounds. So let's see how this works. So after 2 seconds, the chill sound, which was playing at that time, stopped.
All right. The next set of blocks that we're going to talk about are the sound effect blocks. So there are two sound effects that you can change or set: the pitch and something called pan left right. So pan left right basically just means whether you can hear the sound louder in your left ear or in your right ear if you're wearing headphones. This won't work for people who are not wearing headphones, and we can't really demonstrate it on Scratch right now, but if you want to pause the video and try it out really quickly if you're wearing headphones, go ahead.
Okay, so
All right.
let's see how this works out. So our sound chill is playing, and if we want to change the pitch effect by 10, let's add a wait block so we can actually notice the difference. After 1 second, it'll change the pitch effect by 10. And then let's also try the set pitch effect. Let's set it to, let's say, 50. Let's see how this works. So as you probably heard, it got really fast towards the end.
So pitch is basically just how high or low a sound is for anybody who doesn't know. So the higher the pitch, the higher the number, the higher the sound. All right. So the next block we're going to talk about is the clear sound effects block. And this block will just reset any sound effects that you currently have back to normal. So if you change the pitch or the pan left right of some sounds in your program, by using this block, you can reset them all back to what they originally were.
Let's see how this plays out. So when we changed the pitch of the chill sound, it got really fast. And we don't really want that. So let's see what happens when we reset. So we'll wait 1 second and clear sound effects, and then we can see how the sound changes. So it went back to normal.
Alright, and like always, you can pause the video whenever you want to try adding any of these features into your own code. Alright, the next blocks we're going to talk about are the volume blocks. And the volume blocks simply allow you to change the volume at which the sounds are played. By increasing the volume, you can make it louder, and by decreasing it, you can make it lower. The volume also has a little variable that you can activate by clicking the checkbox. This allows you to see the current volume on screen. Did you notice that the volume is another built-in Scratch variable like we talked about earlier?
Okay, so let's change the volume by -10. And just a reminder, negative means that it'll lower the volume. If we want to raise the volume, then just get rid of the negative. And then, so this will make chill sound get lower. And then we can also set the volume, let's add that right here, to, right now it's at 100%. Let's change that to 50%. And then we can add and then we can click the volume to see how our volume changes. So it was first at its 100% volume when we just started the sound, and then when it went to 50, we saw it go to 50, and then we changed the volume by -10, so now the final volume variable has a 40.
All right, and that's about it for sounds. If you want to look at the example code for an example of what everything we did today, you may go to this link to check it out. All right, now let's go over the daily activity for today. So the daily activity is to make two variables which will represent two different keys on your keyboard. Make sure both the variables are showing, and whenever each key is pressed, increase the value inside the corresponding variable. If the value reaches 13 inside of either variable, set the value of the variable to a word of your choice. You may pause the video to go do that. All right, and now we're going to introduce our final project. So Tasbeet will read over the guidelines.
Okay, so you all learned so much in the past 4 days, and let's see how you can put that all together. So for the final project, we recommend that you, we recommend that you have multiple sprites, costumes, and backdrops to change in between. You should use different sounds like how we learned today, and you must use at least one variable, and the value must change throughout the course of your project. Make sure your project is interactive, so it like the user has to input things. Use 3 or more different motion blocks, 3 or more different event blocks, not including the when flag is clicked. Use 3 or more control blocks. Use 5 or more different operator/sensing blocks. Use 3 or more different looks blocks, and the sprite must change direction and position. And as always, be appropriate in whatever you create. So some project ideas is a quiz, for example, a personality quiz, a visual story like a comic, chase the object, so something like a game where you have to like tag something, find the button, click the right button, for example, whack-a-mole, like a digital version, a clicker game like Cookie Clicker, running games like the Google Dinosaur game, a puzzle game, so like finding the matching cards or something like that, or something like a maze.